What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we're diving into Butler Transport. Butler is a small company based out of Kansas City, Kansas. And in this video, we're diving right in with a recruiter phone call, looking at some Indeed reviews, and checking out a video review from a driver right here on YouTube. And at the end of the video, I'll answer the question, okay or no way. Would I, Trucker 219, go to work for Butler Transport? And we're diving in right now. Let's go.
Good afternoon. This is Jacob with Butler Transport.
Hi, I was calling to see if I can get some information about coming to work for you guys. I'm fixing to graduate CDL school coming up, not this Friday, but next Friday. And I heard you guys hire drivers with no experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And then where are you located at?
LaPorte, Indiana.
I think we should be able to work with that area. It is going to be an over-the-road position, 14 to 18 days out, 2 to 3 days home. What we would do if you'd be interested in that option is we bring you here to Kansas City, Kansas for 2 days of orientation. On the second day, we dispatch you out with a driver trainer for 220 driving hours over the road. It takes about 4 to 5 weeks to complete on average. And then the pay during training is $115 a day, up to $800 a week. Once you get through the training program, there's a $500 completion bonus, and we start you out at 45 cents per mile plus monthly bonuses. Once you hit your first safe 60,000 driving miles with us, we bump you up to 50 cents a mile. And then going forward from there, every safe 60,000 driving miles is another performance-based raise.
So every 60,000 safe miles is another bump, and the first one comes after the first 60,000?
Yep. So, like I said, the first raise will bump you up to 50 cents a mile, and then going forward from there, it'll be a performance-based raise.
Okay, what are the criteria for performance?
Just being on time with your delivery, staying on top of your HOSC law compliance, being accident-free, stuff like that.
Okay. And then about how many miles are you guys averaging a week?
So the 14 to 18 days out averages about 2,500 to 3,200 miles a week.
Okay. And then you said the home time for the 14 to 18 days was what? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
It's 2 to 3 days home.
2 to 3 days home, okay. Okay, and then do you guys offer any tuition reimbursement?
Unfortunately, we do not.
Okay. Do you guys have cameras in your trucks?
We do. We do have inward, outward facing cameras. The inward facing camera would have to be uncovered anytime the truck is in motion. Once you're stopped for the night, you're good to cover it up, but anytime the truck's moving, it would have to be uncovered.
Okay. Gotcha. And then you said the training was 220 hours, and you said about how long does that, obviously 220 hours, but you're not running straight.
Yeah, so it's on average, it takes about 4 to 5 weeks to complete. Some finish it a little sooner, some take a little bit longer, but on average, about 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay, gotcha. And then are you guys' trucks governed?
Yeah, 65 and 67. I always get it flipped. It's either 65 on foot, 67 on cruise, or it's flipped, but it is 65 and 67.
Okay, sounds good. And then, do you guys offer any sort of benefits for veterans?
I would have to check and see. I don't know if there's anything specifically we have that we offer. I'd have to check in on that.
Okay. All right. And then you said orientation is in Kansas City, Kansas?
Correct. Yep. So we have orientations every Tuesday. We travel you in the day before. That day we travel you in. We have you do your drug screen. As long as you got more than 6 months left on your current physical, we accept your current physical. And then it is 2 days of orientation here in Kansas City, Kansas. And then on the second day is when we typically get you dispatched out with your trainer. You may have to wait a day or so if they're on their way to the yard or if we travel you out to them. But we always try to get you with your trainer on that second day of orientation.
Okay, gotcha. So specifically for the LaPorte location, you guys only have over the road, but is there any other opportunities like local or regional from different locations?
So the only place we have local is here in the Kansas City area. So like out of like Indianapolis, more towards like the Chicago side, we have a little bit better options as far as home time. We have like 7 to 10 days out, 2 days home. It's not necessarily going to keep you in a specific region, but basically they wouldn't send you out far enough to where they couldn't get you home within that 7 to 10 day stretch.
Okay, gotcha. Awesome. All right, well, I am calling around today to talk to a bunch of different companies, try to get on with somebody here. So I appreciate you taking the time to go through with me what you guys are offering new drivers, and I'll be in touch if I decide to go with you guys.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, so I just got off the phone with the recruiter for Butler Transport, and Butler Transport doesn't offer any CDL training. However, they do hire new drivers. That being said, they have a limited hiring area, and we'll go over that more a little bit later on in the video. But the recruiter said that you would come on and do a 2-day orientation in Kansas City, Kansas. During that 2-day orientation, you would do a drug screen and get familiar with the company policies. After the 2-day orientation, you would get linked up with a driver trainer. They said that you'd have to be out with a driver trainer for 220 hours, which typically takes between 4 to 5 weeks. The pay while you're going through that training and orientation is $115 a day, capped out at $800 a week. They did say you get an $800 bonus after completing your time with the trainer. After you get done with your training, you'll go solo, starting out at 45 cents per mile. The recruiter said that you'd be averaging anywhere from 2,500 to 3,200 miles per week. And as far as pay progression for Butler, after 60,000 miles, you'd go up to 50 cents per mile. After you've reached that first raise, they'll do performance-based raises after that. Butler's over-the-road home time policy is 14 to 18 days out for 2 to 3 days home. Now this could be a little bit different near the Kansas area where their home terminal is, but for most over-the-road drivers this is the case. And unfortunately, Butler does not offer any tuition reimbursement. And being that they don't offer any CDL training for new drivers, this means that drivers would have to go to some sort of CDL training school, so them not having a tuition reimbursement or CDL training is a big downside for me. Butler does have inward and outward facing cameras, and they expect those cameras to be uncovered while the truck is in motion. However, when you stop for the night, they are fine with you covering them up. Their trucks are governed at 65 miles per hour, 67 miles per hour on the cruise, and the recruiter was unsure whether they offer any benefits for veterans. So let's go ahead and flip over to the calculator and see how these numbers are panning out. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to a new member on the channel, Chris Brood Homie. I appreciate the added support. It definitely goes a long way. And if you want to become a member on the channel and get a shout out just like this, click the link in the description. Memberships on the channel are definitely not required, but it gives you access to special badges and emojis, and the support definitely goes a long way. Now back to the video. Okay, they said that they were averaging between 2,500 and 3,200 miles per week, but for a relatively small company and being a new driver, these numbers are a little bit high in my experience. So for that reason, I'm going to take their low number instead of their high number at 2,500 miles a week. So 2,500 miles a week multiplied by 45 cents per mile gives you $1,125 for the week pre-tax. But honestly, in my experience, a new driver, especially with a smaller company, should expect to see anywhere from 18 to 2,300 miles, and I generally average that number out to be about 2,000 miles per week. So 2,000 miles per week multiplied by 45 cents per mile would bring you $900 for the week pre-tax. But for the sake of figuring, we'll take their high number at 3,200 miles a week just to see what it is. While 3,200 miles a week is really unrealistic, it's definitely not impossible. Some really strategic load planning and some drop-in hooks along the way, and it's totally doable, just highly unlikely. So 3,200 miles multiplied by 45 cents per mile would give you $1,440 for the week before taxes. But honestly, as a new driver, that $1,125 is the more realistic option out of the two. So we'll take $1,125 and multiply that by 80%, because generally 20% is what's taken out for taxes, so you'd keep the other 80%, which would bring you $900 for the week after taxes. With the recruiter phone call in the books, let's take a look at their website and see what they're saying over there. We're over here on their website and they got this cool video playing. And scrolling down a little bit, it says more than a job, a partner, family oriented, safety focused, respectful, home time, and accountability. Now throughout this website, I noticed that there's a bunch of quick apps and full apps over here up in the top corner as well. However, when I was scrolling through earlier, I didn't see a spot that showed the available jobs. That being said, they have this pretty rough map here of where their hiring locations are at. So for the most part, it's Midwest, some down south, a little bit over here in the Carolinas, a big chunk here in Texas for Dallas and Houston. You got some over here in Colorado and Utah. It looks like there's some here in Denver, Colorado and Utah, probably in the Salt Lake City area, and then this one's going to be Phoenix, Arizona. But the big chunk of their hiring area is Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska. And it looks like it juts into some other parts like Arkansas and Oklahoma over here, a little bit here into West Virginia. So I would say if you're interested in Butler and you live kind of along these lines here, give them a call and see what they have to offer for you. So it looks like they offer some refrigerated services, time sensitive meaning expedited, some dedicated work, dry van, and full truckload. And that looks to be pretty much the end of their website. There's a quick apply, a full apply, and that's about it. Over here in their driving careers, it pretty much just brings up the same page that we were just looking at. They have the Our Services page, which really doesn't have much to do with drivers. Overall, really cool pictures in the background. But again, we're down to the bottom. Their contact portal is just apply, quick apply, full apply, their location, and that's it. And on their driver portal over here, it just shows what kind of trucks that they're running. Kenworth, Volvo, and International. Has a few training videos for new drivers. It looks like they're running Qualcomm or Omnitrax as their ELD, and that's it. So unfortunately, their website is really lacking in the information that they're giving on the website, with a heavy encouragement just to go ahead and apply without knowing a whole lot of details. So let's flip over to Indeed and see if we can find out some more information via driver reviews. Alright, so over here on Indeed, the first thing I see is 3.3 stars out of 126 reviews, most of them being in the 5 through 3 range, a big dip in the 2s, and another peak in the 1s. And as always, we have the reviews sorted to newest so we can get the most up-to-date information. And this first review here is a 1-star review coming from May this year. Terrible company, don't work here unless you have no other choice. What is the best part of working at the company? My dispatcher wasn't a bad guy, but he was new. What is the most stressful part about working at the company? The equipment is kept in bad shape / is old. Orientation is also very poorly developed and ran. Lots of don't worry, just sign it. Should have been a bigger red flag. What is a typical day like for you at the company? Everything was pretty standard trucking except when it came to orientation and to maintenance of the equipment. Then it was awful. Alright, so a pretty rough review right out of the gate, but let's scroll down and see if there's any other takes. This one, also from May, is a 4-star, and it says it's a good foot in the door. They do take care of you and train you. Routes are dependent on dispatcher. If you get a bad one or on their bad side, you won't get much work, but they do care. Okay, so that seems pretty fair, a little bit of good, little bad. This next one is a 5-star review from April. Great place to start trucking. Butler offered solid training, steady miles, and support helping build new skills, confidence, and a strong foundation as a new driver. I would encourage anyone who is looking for a place to begin their career with Butler Transportation. This 1-star review from March from an over-the-road company driver. If you are a kiss-up, you'll get miles. If not, your miles will fluctuate noticeably. If you need to contact payroll, be prepared to leave a voicemail. If you need to go home at your sometimes 2 or 3 days prior to the day you actually need to be home. Okay, so I'm guessing that means that sometimes they'll get you home earlier than when you requested to be home. Here's another one from March, also a 1-star review. Bad management, bad trainer, and bad pay. The pay was awful, my trainer was terrible, and the management was even worse. Orientation pay was on the floor. Please don't do this to yourself, you deserve better. Alright, so this last one in 2026 was from March 1st, and it's a 4-star review. It's nice for a first-time driving job. You get your own dispatcher, they're good at communicating, although they get busy sometimes. Pretty good at getting you home when needed. They don't just look at you as just another driver, they get to know you. Wow, so it looks like the reviews on Indeed are very mixed. Lots of people saying it's a good place to work, lots of people hating it. But one of the big standout things for me was the fact that a lot of people were complaining about the training, whether that be the orientation or the trainers themselves. And if you're just getting started in the trucking industry, you really want to go to a place that has some decent training, as that's where you get your foundation for what it's like to be a good driver. And that's your opportunity to ask somebody who has a lot more experience than you do all the questions you want to ask before jumping into your own truck. So if a company doesn't have good training, it's probably not a good place to go. Alright, so I found this video review of a driver sharing his experience working for Butler. And this is coming from the YouTube channel Moose Lodge. And as always, if you want to check out the full video, I'll leave a link for that in the description.
I do think that Butler Transport is a good place to get experience. 6 months to a year experience. You can stay there, stay down, get your head up. You'll make a decent amount of money. You'll be able to pay your bills, but that's about it. The money's not great, but when you are just starting off in trucking, you'd be hard pressed to find a place that pays you the money that you're looking for. I'm pretty sure that we've all heard that before we got into this industry, and it is most certainly true. It's your standard over the road, refrigerated company. Everything is standard. They got a couple drop-in hooks every here and there. They run to all 48 states. You stay out 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. You make 45 cents a mile, which I hear is, pretty average. I think it's pretty average. There are companies that pay less than that, but me personally, if I had to go back, I would not accept anything less than 45 cents a mile.
What's crazy to know is this video was posted 2 years ago, so the fact that they haven't increased their pay in 2 years is a little wild.
With what I know now. And I would recommend that for anybody who's getting in the truck and do not accept less than 45 cents a mile. If you talk to a company and they're talking about paying you 40, 35, 37, 30, 32, don't go. Just go to Butler Transport instead. You'll get 45 cents a mile, make decent money while you get your experience. Like I said in my previous videos, they take care of the trucks. They're a small family-owned company, so you'll be able to speak to somebody who's in charge. You'll be able to speak to a decision maker. You won't get to run around, stuff like that. But in my opinion, I think that it's a company that you should stick around for a year at the latest. I don't think you should be there longer than a year. Once you get 6 months experience, you should definitely start looking at companies that are, take around that amount of experience, because any company that requires you to have any experience at all is going to pay you significantly more than you're going to make at Butler Transport. They don't have any detention. They don't have any layover. And in my opinion, if you're running refrigerated freight, that's unacceptable. There's no way that you should be sitting in the dock for 4, 5, 6 hours unpaid. That's just crazy to me. You'll never talk me into it being fair. You'll never talk me into it being acceptable. I won't even hear the argument.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and that's something that I forgot to ask the recruiter when I got on the phone with him. Anytime you're working for a company, but especially one with reefer, you want to make sure that there's detention pay. And the big reason for that is that you go to a lot of receivers that are super picky about the product that you are bringing. So they take multiple hours to break down every single pallet. Me personally, my longest time in a dock getting unloaded was 11 hours. And if it wasn't for detention pay, I would have been sitting there and not making any money.
I won't hear the argument for no layover either. I'm very big on if the freight market is bad, or if I'm in a bad area where there's no loads, there is no reason why me as a W-2 employee should be penalized for that. I mean, after all, I'm W-2, I'm not 1099, I'm not a business owner, so I should not suffer for market conditions. I'm an employee who is being paid by a company to do a job. The job includes babysitting the equipment and or a load or a trailer. Therefore, I need to be compensated for that.
That's a really good point. Layovers should definitely be a thing too. It's not the driver's fault that loads aren't available in the area that dispatch sent them to. So if you're ready and available to do a load and there's no freight moving out of where you're at, you should definitely be paid as a driver to sit there, because it is not your fault at all.
Now that we got that out the way, I'm gonna say this. No matter where you go, there's always a better company. You're always gonna hear some dude online talking about how they make this much, that much, they're home this much, that much, their trucks go this fast, their trucks come with this, they got these perks. What I recommend is, if you hear about a company through word of mouth, or you see an advertisement or whatever, you need to call and speak to recruiting and get the information directly from the horse's mouth. Don't just take anybody's word on anything. If you can, talk to employees that work there, so that way you can get all of the information that you need to make a sound decision.
That is definitely the way to go about it. Ideal situation, you're able to talk to drivers who've actually gone to work for the company. And the second best alternative is talking to the recruiter and hearing it directly from the company. And that's the big reason I've set up these deep dives the way I have. Because if the information is coming directly from a recruiter, there's no way that they can argue that it's true or false. They're the ones that are saying it.
Now, I know a lot of people are gonna ask me if I still work there. The answer is no. As soon as I hit 6 months, I got up out of there. Reason being is it just wasn't a right fit for me personally. I know people who are there that are still happy. Great for them, but for me it just didn't make much sense, because I live in Georgia. So to work at a company that operates out of Kansas City, their only terminal is in Kansas City, it just doesn't make much sense to me. I would be better off going to a company that operates in or has a terminal in where I live. And I do think that that is a practice that everybody should live by. Every single truck driver, CDL holder, tractor trailer operator, whatever. If you're going to work for a trucking company, you need to look for a company in your home state. Doesn't matter how popular this company is, and they're in Missouri, Wisconsin, where all the top 5 is located. You need to be hitting the white pages, hitting Google, hitting these CDO looking for work groups, and look for a trucking company in your home state. The reason for that is because a lot of people like to talk about home time. Well, the way home time works is they're going to have their trucks more likely to be where they have a terminal. They're more likely to send you where they do business at. And if a company has a terminal at a location, they most likely do business in that location. So if you have a company that has a terminal in your state, then they have a lot of business in that state, they have a lot of freight in that state, and it's easy for them to get you back to that state which you live in. So by extension, it's easier for you to get home. Now,
That's an interesting point and something that I haven't really thought about too much. But pretty regularly, I do see people taking this advice, looking for companies in their area. And this advice completely makes sense, and I'm going to have to agree with it.
My final thoughts on the company. Just want to touch on another few things. For me, I think that the company, and this might just be a industry standard, as far as I know, it is an industry standard to not give detention or layover. And I think, again, I'm gonna say it one more time, if you're running refrigerator freight, it's a must-have. I mean, it's a luxury, sure, whatever, call me spoiled, call me whatever you want. I call it knowing my worth and, just make an intelligent decision for me and my family. I need detention and layover. I'm being away from my family. I need to be compensated for that. I'm working hard, living on the road. I need to be compensated fairly. So Butler Transport will tell you that they don't pay layover. The problem with that is they do pay layover, but it's a caveat. It's only $75 a day, which, I mean, okay. But in order for you to actually get that layover, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to pick up the phone, cuss, scream, yell, and make a fuss about it. And me personally, I'm not comfortable talking to another grown man that way because I would never want to be talked to that way. So I feel like if you're going to tell me that layover is available and I qualify for it because there's no freight or because I'm broken down or whatever, and I ask for it and I legitimately qualify for it, then you should give it to me. I don't really understand the whole, I emailed the person who's responsible for the layover, but they didn't get back to me. How you think I'm going to react when you tell me that? I'm going to tell you to, well, hit them up again. I'm going to tell you to send another email. But it seems like everybody's in cahoots to make sure you either forget about it or just don't get it. I mean, 7 times out of 10, you're just going to forget about it, or, they make it so difficult for you to get that you're just going to say screw it because it's only $75 in the first place. And then, it feels like the juice is not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, that is a huge red flag in a company. Anytime you have to chase down any sort of money, whether that be detention, your miles, or even layover, that's a huge problem. They should know how many hours you're working, what you should be paid for, and make sure that you're getting that money. You shouldn't have to chase down your paycheck.
I just felt like with 6 months experience and the lack of accommodations, you couldn't tell me that there wasn't a company that I could go to that was better than, Butler Transport. I mean, you couldn't, like, with 6 months experience, there's no way there's not a company who pays detention wouldn't take me. There's a company that pays layover that wouldn't take me. I'm sure there is one company that gives those things that will take somebody with 6 months experience. And that's what I found with Martin Transport. And that's why I left. So, yeah, just a recap on my final thoughts on Butler Transport. Good place to get experience. Fantastic place to get experience. Beginner friendly. They give you a chance to make mistakes. They give you a chance to, figure things out. They don't rush you. But my recommendation would be to spend 1 year maximum there, because I know personally at 6 months, your potential employers, are expanded greatly. Like the quality of employers that you qualify to work for open up drastically at 6 months. So I would recommend that you explore those options to avoid wasting time. But I will also say this: if you were to leave before the year or at the year mark, I will strongly recommend that you do your due diligence, because in this industry, you don't want to be a job hopper. With me, I knew I was going to leave. I just didn't know where. And the reason why it took so long is because, I wanted to make sure that wherever I was going to go is where I know that I could spend another year, year and a half, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. I wanted to make sure that if I leave the place I'm going to, I'm going to be able to stay there for a long period of time. So just make sure you keep those things in your head when you're looking for another job. If you're at Butler Transport and you're looking for another job, or any company, this applies to any company. If you're at any company and you're looking for another job, make sure that wherever you're going to go is a place where you can spend the next year or two, so that way you avoid having multiple jobs. If you're someone who has switched jobs before, you know how much of a pain it is to get all your personal items out of the truck, take them from state to state, moving into another truck, going through orientation. The process is excruciating. So make sure that you know what you're doing, and make sure that it's a decision that is right for you. Don't forget to look for a company in your home state if you can, because it will drastically improve your chances of getting home time. Make sure if you're going to stay refrigerated, look for detention, look for layover, and those are my final thoughts and tips.
Yeah, I can 100% agree with the advice that this gentleman gave. And unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, the first company that you go with isn't going to be the company that you finish off your career with. And he's absolutely spot on that 6 months to a year is a good time to start looking for something different if you're not happy where you're at. The one thing that I would say is the whole job hopper thing. Yes, there's a little bit of credibility to that, but overall in the trucking industry, it's understandable for the first 3 years or so of your career to jump around a little bit to find out what works best for you. Company loyalty in this industry is few and far between, but I'd say within the first 4 years of trucking, you should be able to find a spot that's suiting all of your needs. You've built up enough experience, you've got whatever endorsements you need, and you should be able to find a company that suits all of your needs around that time. But like I said, between your first day and the 4-year mark, it's completely acceptable to bounce around a little bit. So we've talked to a driver recruiter, looked at some reviews on Indeed, and heard a video review from a driver who's recently gone to work for Butler. So now it's time to answer the question, okay or no way. Would I, Trucker 219, go to work for Butler? And the answer to that is no way. Some of the big red flags for me is number one, their pay. Sitting at 45 cents per mile starting out, it's really on the lower end of the pay scale amongst a lot of the starter companies. Couple that with the fact that I believe they've over-exaggerated their average miles per week quite a bit. It's really not a good look for the recruiting department to set unrealistic expectations for new drivers coming on board. While there definitely can be some value to working for a smaller company, the limited hiring area is definitely going to be a negative for a lot of people. Another big negative for me is the fact that they don't offer any tuition reimbursement or CDL training. In my opinion, a company should have one or the other if they're taking on new drivers. And even though I didn't get this information from the recruiter, if this is still the case for the company, this is a huge red flag. And that's that the video review from Moose Lodge said that there was no detention pay. He did mention that there was some layover pay, but it's a pain in the butt to chase that down, which in and of itself is another huge red flag. And everything else that I've learned about the company is relatively average. The home time, the training time, the orientation days, and the pay while going through training, it's all just pretty standard across the industry. But if I had to point out some highlights of the company, I'm led to believe that because it's a smaller company, it's a little bit more tight-knit and a little bit more family-friendly, meaning that there's a higher likelihood that the dispatchers are actually going to be able to get to know the drivers a little bit more. Versus with many of the major carriers, if you call in to speak to your dispatcher, you have to give your truck number, and that's the only way they know you. I do also like that they give you a bonus after you complete training, and this would definitely help new drivers be able to stock up their truck with some new equipment, whether that be GPS, a dash cam of their own, or even some sources for cooking food in the truck like a microwave, electric skillet, or a crock pot. But I want to hear what you guys think. Based off of this information, would you go to work for Butler? Leave that down in the comments below. And if you want to check out more deep dives just like this one, click the playlist right here. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and share this with your friends. Alright, bye.